shop to order. I will entertain the motion to set the agenda.
Motion to set the agenda.
Second. Motion made by Alex, seconded by Jason. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, the agenda is set. We have two items on the agenda. The first item is Presley House Local Historic Landmark Designation, and this is actually a public hearing, so I will entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
Motion to go into public hearing.
Motion made by Alex, seconded by Charlie. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we are in public hearing, and Miles is bringing up the list, but we will start with Reagan Murphy from the Belmont Planning Department, who I believe has a presentation. Is that correct?
We have an invitation to the county to present. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. The property owners of 16 West Woodrow Avenue, also known as the Dr. John M. and Laura Watt Presley House, have submitted a request to the Gaston County Historic Preservation Commission to have their property designated as a local historic landmark. And per the interlocal agreement between the City of Belmont and Gaston County County's planning staff will present the case to you all for consideration, and then you'll consider the adoption of a resolution in support of that local historic landmark designation. So at this time, if you are amenable to it, I would invite Planning Director Jamie Camberoglou up to start the presentation.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, Jamie, and all Belmont Planning Department alumni.
Well, I was going to start with saying thank you. It's great to be back presenting in front of you all again. So our staff and the Historic Preservation Commission are here to present Landmark Designation Request 00002 for the Dr. John M. and Laura Watt Presley House located at 16 West Woodrow Avenue in Belmont. So I am joined this evening by our planning staff and a representative, actually several representatives from our Historic Preservation Commission, along with the property owners to present this request to you. The applicants for this request are Sandra and Richard Cromlish, and they are requesting to have their property, which is the Dr. John and Laura Watt Presley House, be designated as a local landmark. The subject's property is located south of Wilkinson Boulevard in between Central Avenue and Main Street. Woodrow Avenue is part of the National Historic District in Belmont, and this property was surveyed and included in the original inventory list, which described the contributing structure as a frame four-square house dwelling with pyramidal roof, hip roof dormers, wraparound porch, and porte cochere. The porch is supported by paired battered piers resting on brick pedestals, wood shingle siding, and 6/6 double-hung windows. The orthophoto map shows the site from aerial view. We can see that both structures that are being presented in this designation are on this site. The designation report includes the servants' quarters towards the rear of the property as well as the main house. This map shows who all received a mail notice with information about tonight's public hearing. The sign was posted on the property as well on September 5th, and notices were posted in the Gazette on the 5th and 12th in accordance with general statute requirements. This slide shows the contact information for the property owners on the previous slide. So the main reason our staff is here tonight is to review and answer any questions about the local designation process for you all. The county's Historic Preservation Commission serves as a joint preservation commission for all of the municipalities within Gaston County. This commission was established in 1991 by the Board of Commissioners with a mission to safeguard the heritage of the county and the municipalities by preserving historic sites, promoting the use and conserving landmarks and districts, and providing educational opportunities regarding historic preservation for Gaston County residents. Our commission became a certified local government, or a CLG for short, in May of 1994, and this designation is what allows our commission and staff to apply for federal and state preservation grants. This commission also oversees all landmark designation requests within the county limits and COA, or certificates of appropriateness requests, for all areas in the county with the exception of the city of Gastonia. All of these services are outlined in the interlocal agreement that Reagan mentioned earlier. For landmark designations, though, we like to break this process up into the 3 steps that you see on the screen. The 3 steps are the research stage, public hearing stage, and post-hearing stage. So our first step after being approached with a request by the residents is to have them attend a meeting with our Historic Preservation Commission to start a discussion about the property and why they want it designated. For our commission and staff to start conducting research, the structure needs to be added to the HPC study list, and this was completed at the February 20th meeting after the Cromwell family presented their request to our members. Research is conducted by the property owners, HPC members, and staff to create the designation report, and that report was written by the property owners. The HPC reviewed and agreed to send it to the state for their comments at their March meeting, and the staff worked to review and amend the report before sending it as well. Comments were received on May 24th, and the HPC moved to present this request to the city of Belmont at their June meeting. Per state statute and county ordinances, landmarks may be designated if they have special significance, and for us this means that the property needs to have historical significance, architectural significance, cultural importance, or possess integrity of design, setting, workmanship, materials, or feelings of association. This structure is being presented tonight based on cultural importance for the area, but it also possesses architectural and historical significance as well. The property was built by Dr. John M. Presley in 1920. While the structure itself is a great example of the traditional four-square style home, Dr. Presley and his wife, Laura Watt Presley, were revered for their contributions to the city of Belmont. John Presley was a doctor in Belmont along with Dr. Charles McAdams. Together they served the Eagle community, which is now known as Eagle Park. Dr. Presley was a commissioner in Belmont and instrumental in bringing Davis Park to the city. At the time, it had one of the finest baseball fields outside of the major leagues. Dr. Presley also helped obtain the city's first public library and build the Ottenstow American Legion building, which is the Legion building in Davis Park. He was also a World War I veteran and a beloved member of the community. The Belmont Banner described him as a most able physician, wise counselor, and a friend to all. So part of our research includes analyzing the structure from a structural point of view, as well as looking at it from the financial impact to the municipality and to the county. So the information on this slide is taken directly from our county tax records, and I want to note for the record that the 1925 build date is for the servants' quarters. The designation report states that the principal structure was built in 1920. The market value of the property is $757,490, and the property was purchased by the current owners in 1979. If the property is designated and the property owners go through the application process with the county's tax department, the city of Belmont would see a decrease in property taxes collected for this property by $1,723.29 for each year. If approved, the county would also see a reduction in property taxes collected for this property by $2,268.68 for each year. Historical landmarks fall under the real property tax exemptions and exclusions program. This exclusion is allowed through general statutes and allows the property to be taxed uniformly on the basis of 50% of the true value of the property. So please note that this is not an automatic tax deduction program, and the program is a deferred tax program. So what this means is that if anything happens to the property that is deemed to be a disqualifying event, the taxes that have been deferred by participating in this program would have to be paid back by the property owners. An example of a disqualifying event is doing work to the house without obtaining a certificate of appropriateness. Something else to note as well is that deferment does not run with the land like the designation does, so it runs with the property owner. The property will always be designated unless they choose to de-designate it, but the tax benefit must be applied for by the property owner and any future property owners. Once our staff receives comments from the State Preservation Office on the designation report, we present the updated report to the HPC, and they vote on whether or not to present it to the City Council and to the County Commissioners. Our HPC voted to move this forward to the public hearing stage at their May meeting. Per the interlocal agreement between the municipalities and the county, local landmark designation requests have to receive approval from both elected boards, which is why we're here tonight. So we first will present to all of the cities that have a designation request, and then we take that approval, if approved, and take it to the county commissioners for final approval. If this is approved by you all tonight, it will go before our county commissioners at their October 22nd meeting. If the county commissioners choose to designate the Presley House as a local landmark, our staff will complete and record the resolution designating the structure. This is done to ensure that any future property owners are aware the property has been designated as a local landmark. Our staff will also work with the HPC and the property owner to place a historic landmark sign on the site as well. Our staff does not participate in the processes that involve taxes. After designations are approved, we work to connect the property owner with our tax department. We also work closely with the tax department to confirm whether or not properties are participating and still meeting their local landmark status. Mr. Mayor, this does conclude my presentation. I am happy to answer any questions regarding process that you all may have for me. We also have our chairman of the Historic Preservation Commission with us as well, along with property owners.
Thank you, Jamie. Any questions?
I'm sorry, I was late. I was stuck in traffic. Please forgive me. I felt horrible, but I had to get in here, so I'm so sorry.
No, that's all right. Although that's not in fact a question, but.
I know, I just wanted to put that out there. I'm so sorry.
As a point of education for me, because we certainly have our share of historic landmarks in town, the deferment slide, the tax deferment slide. So to me, that implies when you defer a tax that it's eventually going to be paid. It seems to state here, though, that as long as you continue to meet those qualifying requirements,
Yes.
is that deferred in perpetuity, or?
It continues to defer, is my understanding, based on presentations that we've had with the tax department, that they have always focused on the fact that if something should happen that kicks you out of the program, then you would have to pay back the back taxes, but I think it's for 3 years. But just go back to those 3 years.
So you continue to get the tax benefit from it?
Right.
As soon, let's say they repainted the house or changed something qualifying on the facade, which I
Right.
believe is mainly just the front facade,
Anything
right?
exterior, so for this particular designation, it's the exterior of the
Okay.
principal house plus the service quarters at the rear.
Okay, so if they were to repaint that or change the siding, they'd have to pay back tax of 3 years or
For the
whatever.
If they did it without the certificate of
Right.
appropriateness, yes,
For the previous 3 years,
yes.
yeah. And then they requalify every 3 years, is that how?
So as long as they are continuing to do everything with a certificate of appropriateness, or they don't change anything at all, then it continues on.
Okay.
The disqualifying event would be failure to obtain it without a certificate of appropriateness. The other thing we've seen too is that the property sells and the new homeowner isn't aware that they have to apply for the tax deduction, but they don't get it, and for some reason it just keeps on going, the tax department hasn't caught it, then they would end up being responsible for the back taxes.
And I think you stated this obviously follows the home, not the owner, right? Or did I have it backwards?
The designation follows the
designation.
home, but the
Correct.
tax program follows the owners.
Okay. So,
Unless the new owners register for
Right,
the tax.
yes.
And-
I believe the materials mentioned a sign, a marker, if this were ultimately approved, and that it would be on the property if the owners agreed, otherwise it's in the right of way or somewhere. Who pays for the sign?
The county pays for the sign. We have a standard rate that we pay up to, and we have a sign vendor that we work with as well. So if this is approved, we look at the designation report and we work with our Historic Preservation Commission members to figure out the wording for the sign. The board approves the wording, staff orders the sign, and then we work with the property owners based on where they want it on the property. If they choose to not have it either affixed to the property or somewhere in the yard, then we put it in the public right of way.
Generally speaking, those are the white signs that you see on some of the historic.
Yes.
ones, right?
Mhm.
and it's the HBC board that's responsible for sort of reviewing any modifications to the property and approving those?
Yes, all of those come before our board.
And that's, sorry, again, the point of education for me, is that an appointed board, I guess, or?
This is, yes, the Historic Preservation Commission is an appointed board of the county.
I see.
And I think we have the chairman here. who
We
might-
do.
Yes, can answer some.
Absolutely. John?
So I'm assuming that was you're listed on the public comment sheet, but I'm assuming that you have nothing separate to add. Jamie, is that correct?
I don't know.
Okay, great. So assuming there are no further questions for Jamie, the next speaker, did you? Okay. The next speaker is John Russell. Mr. Russell, you've come before us in many capacities over the years. In what capacity are you addressing us tonight?
So, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of council. It's good to see you all. I'm John Russell. For the record, I'm a resident of Belmont, 23 Circle Drive, and a member of the Historic Preservation Commission. And so I'm here with Jamie and with our staff to present, just make some comments really to the council about the presentation, and of course take any questions that you have. The one thing I thought I'd follow up on and add is I wanted to talk a little bit about the Historic Preservation Program, how successful it's been, particularly in Belmont, but also Gaston County. So when an application or a presentation comes to you, you all see the architecture, the history, a little bit about the story, some of the recognition, which is great. The story of Dr. Presley and this house is worthy of preserving and worthy of knowing. What we see at the commission level is sort of the investment piece, the part that comes later, the certificates of appropriateness that Jamie's talking about. So on the residential side, just in Belmont, I would say in the last 4 years, homeowners have come to us asking to put a back patio on the house, change out the gutters and put new gutters and downspouts and roofing. The Lineberger house up on the point came for us for that. Expansion of kitchen where you have to remove an exterior wall or maybe a door or window to add there. And then there was a homeowner that put a pool in not too long ago. All of that, I guess the point on the residential side is these homes are not really just sitting stagnant collecting a property tax benefit, but they're actually investing. The homeowners that go through this process as a whole have tended to kind of put money into the homes to increase the value, to spur some investment and improvements of surrounding homes. So in that sense, from a residential standpoint, it's been successful. On the commercial side, the McLean home down in the south part of the peninsula is a historic home. They've come to us for sign improvements. The station property where the restaurant is has come to us to expand their downtown retail space. We've worked with them on closing the kitchen to meet some health department requirements that they had last year, so there's been significant investment in that property. The Chronicle Mill is a historic property. They've come to us for off-street parking improvements, some of the additional towers that are not part of the original mill. All that's been investment, and a lot of what's happened in Belmont, other communities have seen, hey, we can look how successful this is, we can do this too. So you've got the Osage Mill in Bessemer City, the Flint Mill in Gastonia are seeing the successes of Chronicle. We're going to Mount Holly shell designations, and I would say one of the things probably as a community that we have now in Gaston County that we didn't have 10, 15, 20 years ago is a critical mass where someone could come and open a business to do window glazing or historic mortar restoration or woodworking. There's just enough work here to support that type of business. A lot of it is because of the decisions that this council has made, the planning staff of Belmont's made, sort of the leadership here. It's not just here, but certainly Belmont's been a significant part of that. So to you guys and to the predecessors that have been in your seats, we just, as a county and as a commission, we really thank you for hearing us, for considering these programs. I know Sandra and Dick may want to say a few words of thanks also, but really it's a great long time. There couldn't be a better presenters of Belmont history and the importance of preserving homes than Sandra did. So happy to take any questions about the process of the commission. Other than that, I just want to thank you guys and staff for your work on this project.
Thank you. Any questions for John?
I have one. So obviously there's some oversight and restrictions on what a property owner that obtains this designation can do to the property. Are there also any sort of requirements, at a minimum level that the property owner must maintain to maintain that tax benefit? Just sort of aesthetically, that it's continues to be an asset for the city and obviously for the owner.
So one of the things that we're charged with is sort of some supervision where there's a member of the commission appointed from each area of the county. So as far as driving around and being aware, and there is a procedure where if a home were to fall in disrepair, you could probably bring someone to the commission to talk about a ordinance or a notice to repair or to bring the property back into compliance. So that similar to maybe what a city would do on code enforcement.
But there's no additional restrictions for a home that was designated under the HPC as a historic landmark over and above what a typical property owner might
Probably not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
We've not had to do that. We've not had to bring anyone back and say, hey, you're really just not meeting the standards that are the expectations we have when we do this designation.
I'm sure you don't see that very often. But
Probably
very,
possible.
yeah.
Well, the restriction itself is keeping with its historic significance, right? And its historic significance is what's complementing our historic district. So the fact that they'll keep the architecture the same way, they won't paint it, they won't change the facade or anywhere else around the house, is complementing and keeping to our Belmont heritage, I guess you could say, in our history for our historic district. So there's a restriction, I want to say there's no.
No, there's a restriction on improvement. I'm just wondering if there are any minimum requirements for maintaining that, like you said, not allowing a property to fall in disrepair any more so than a designated property?
It would probably be a code enforcement issue
Okay.
before it came to us, but I think there's probably something that the HPC, the commission could do that could mirror or support, the city if there were concerns in that area.
Okay.
Anything else? Were you, Alex, were you here when, we've only done one since I've been here, that was the Gad House. Were you on?
I was on Historic Belmont
Okay.
Foundation and the Preservation Board, so I was there for the sign, I wasn't
Okay.
council when we did
All right, so, a new experience for most of us, but, very educational, and thank you, Mr. Russell.
Yes, sir, thank you.
And I believe the two remaining speakers in our public hearing are both applicants. First, we have Sandra Fromage.
Good evening, thank you for having us. This has been an experience. And you are asking all the right questions, Jason. When I started this, I knew a lot about the Presley House and a lot about the Presleys because Dick lived beside them all his life, and he's 82 this week, okay? So we knew a lot about them. We knew Mrs. Presley, of course, didn't know Mr. Presley, Dr. Presley. But I want to say that when I went to the board, they told me, did you do this? And I said, yes. And they said, lawyers usually do this. And I thought, and I know why. But I learned a lot. And if you want to know about the history of Belmont, look up some of these old houses and look up what these people did and what they didn't do. If you haven't read, I don't know if you got the whole thing there, Dr. Presley delivered a lot of babies, and I think he lost one mother. So you learned things like that. The designation of the Dr. John Mason Presley House located at 16 West Woodrow Avenue, Bell, 1930. Now I'm going to stop right there. When Dr. Presley died, Mrs. Presley had to make that house into apartments so that she could support her 4 daughters. And that made it not a total 4 square with that front porch closed in. And so we know that. The house is one of few American 4 square homes built in Belmont. It maintains a high level of integrity with its slate roof, cedar lamp wood shakes, porte cochere, and 6/1 original windows. The house is included as a part of the Belmont Historic District and is significant because of the contributions its owner, Dr. John M. Presley, made to the community and the county. It's been an interesting journey, so we'll see how it turns out. Y'all have any questions?
Well, we certainly, I read the report. You did a very good job
Thank you.
in compiling it, and it was interesting to read about the history. And in order to supplement her income, she converted it, the widow of Dr. Presley converted it to apartments. Are they still apartments today, or is it a single family?
They are still apartments. However, if for any reason we decided to sell that house, or if we decided to make that house into a one-family whatever, it would have to stay that way because it never could be changed back. So, right now there are 4 apartments and a garage apartment. They're all rented. We have a mayor in residence there. If you ever need to know who it is, just give me a call. And so he takes care of that complex. But Dick is still there beside, well, he's known the Presleys all his life. So it's very special to us, and I just took it on. I'm not sure, I'm glad I did. I'm not sure I will anymore. And we have another house down the street that's 100-some years old. So mostly that street is made up of very old houses that need to stay like they are.
I was most interested in the different street names of some of the streets from what they're presently known as. I found that interesting. So, any,
As well. Thank you, guys.
I don't think Dick's gonna speak.
That's
Well,
all right.
I will from right here. I'd like to thank Sandra in public here for the work she did with this. Thank you all for being here tonight to help us out with it. And for the folks in Gaston County, it's been an education for us to work with them. It's been a joy to be a part of the system there.
And I didn't say something that needs saying. Phenomenal. These folks are phenomenal. They really are. And if you ever want to go to a historic, I'll just make a plug. If you ever want to go to one of the historic meetings, it is so interesting. I learned a lot.
Been an
Thank you.
education.
Well, our meetings here are pretty interesting. Sometimes too. Yes, June.
I wanted to add to the question that you have for John. There are ways that you can, but there are only 2 local districts in Gaston County, and they do have some minimum standards for the homes that are in those districts.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Is there anything further? If not, I'd entertain a motion to come out of the public hearing.
Motion to come out of public hearing?
Motion made by Alex, seconded by Jason. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we have come out of public hearing, and the issue before us is, I believe in your packet, you see a draft ordinance in support of the local historic landmark dedication. Assuming there's no issues for discussion, I would entertain a motion to adopt that ordinance in support.
I'll make the motion to adopt a resolution in support of this local landmark designation as written.
And I'll second that.
Okay, motion made by Alex, seconded by Catherine. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So that brings us to our second agenda item, which is the Reed High School History Walk project. And to present that, we have Sergeant Green. Yes. With Belmont Police Department.
All right, good evening. We'll keep with the historic theme for tonight. So earlier this year, it was probably about March, we decided that we wanted to do a type of community project, and hoping that this would be an annual thing that we would do. So we kind of met together with some of the churches and tried to brainstorm some different ideas, and we decided that we at least wanted our project to be in the Reed Park or Reed community. In doing that, we had a few different ideas that we came up with, and myself and Officer Johnson, we got in the truck one day and we rode down to the park and just walked around and kind of thought of some different ideas. And I thought back, I've been in Belmont since 2017, and a lot of what I've heard from the community, this was our 4th year going to the B4L, I believe 3rd or 4th year B4L celebration in Reed Park. And what we typically hear is that, the community would like to see Reed High memorialized and let their legacy live on. And I know a little bit about the school, but I didn't know a ton. So I reached out to Stephen Reese, who helps put on that celebration. He's very connected in the community, and he helped me kind of brainstorm as well. And he brought me a group of the alumni together and to determine whether or not a history walk would be feasible. And what we've come up with is a series of 7 signs, which are a draft of those signs are included in your packet. And each of these signs would have something different, something factual about the school. We went back and forth about what to actually include on those signs, whether or not we wanted to include what happened in the community afterwards, success stories from the school, and ultimately the decision was to leave it factual about the school itself, since it's going to be on the school grounds, right? And then there's a ton of history about Reed High that I knew nothing about, and I thought, more so I'm a picture person, right? I like to see pictures. And if you look through, there are a ton of pictures about some of the different activities and sports that, you would see at South Point now. It's really been a lot of fun to go back and look at all this history. They were there, they saw it, they were in the school. And as well as, Gazette articles and things like that. So, overall, there will be one sign. If you look at the Reed High History Walk, this would be the one that looks like this. Should be the first one, I believe, in your packet. It's just a general overview of what the walk is, and it has a small map. Now, this would be the sign itself. The graphic would be 2 foot by 3 foot, and this is all funded by churches and sponsors, so it would not be a cost to the city. But anyways, so that has a map of where all the signs would be, and then you can see what each sign from there, would have on it. We have a few sponsors on board that are gonna help with, landscaping, to make sure that it's easy for the grass to be cut around the sign, so that we're not having to go across the track or anything like that. That's kind of where we're at with it. It's been a great project for us to look at and learn about the community, and I hope that this is something we can move forward with.
Question.
Yes.
Do we know, I know you mentioned that the sponsors and local churches and organizations are gonna come up. Do you guys have an idea what the total cost is? We've partnered, and I wasn't able to vote on the last one because of my affiliation, but we've partnered with the Historic Belmont Foundation and paying a 50-50 for the historic, the National Historic District signs that you see, one next to the Lineberger House, one across the street from Chronicle. Did you say $687 a sign, $687 a sign? I mean, I know this isn't what's proposed to us tonight, but I wouldn't be opposed to the city kicking in any type of funding, some type of 50% to show our support and show our gratitude to this as well. I mean, we've done it in the past, there's precedent. I don't know, I'm just kind of.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's something we could take to the Parks and Rec board, and if they recommend that us, we can, because I know we get dinged sometimes for making decisions and about Parks and Rec and not involving Parks and Rec, but let me.
The material themselves will not be ready by Faith and Blue. Now, there are other options, but that is not our timeline at this point.
Okay. We're going to have it at some point.
Right.
Okay. I would have one comment. If you look at the drafts of the signs, I think they might need to be a revision to the third sign involving Professor Reed. It said, and I was confused by this. It says, Mr. Reed, in the first paragraph, Mr. Reed was a member of the Reed High School first graduating class in 1932. 54 sound, well, but he was a teacher there, wasn't he?
Yeah, so that's already been pointed out. There are a few revisions from the time this was submitted.
Yes. All right. That was just my only question about that. And so I guess the only question that I might have.
I mean, the graphic that you have here, there will be some revisions between now and this is the general idea of what's going to be there. But it's more so just having the city's permission to install these signs in the city park.
So I guess the question would be, this has come straight to us, as I understand it. The signs themselves are not going to be ready by Faith and Blue weekend. Would we be, and I'll ask the group, are we willing to proceed on this? The other option is we could see what the Parks and Rec Board thinks, what their thoughts are, any recommendation they might have. They're having a meeting tomorrow, I believe, so it wouldn't delay things that much, and then we could put it on the consent agenda for approval at the October regular meeting. It wouldn't have an impact on the event for Faith and Blue weekend because it's not going to be finished by that time anyway. But I just throw that out because we have had in the past some comments about we're making decisions involving things that are going on in parks without involving the Parks and Rec Board, and we have that board. So I'll just see what everyone thinks the appropriate thing to do. If y'all feel comfortable just approving it tonight, I think that's fine, but that is another potential option.
I mean, let me put it this way, it's not gonna change my mind, one way or the other. I mean, I'm in favor of this. Again, I would be interested to see if there could be a potential opening for shared costs between the city, just to show we have some stake in the game here, because again, we're talking about $5,000 for these signs. I think the National Historic District sign was like $6,000 or something like that, and we contributed $3,000 to it. Again, I think that's goodwill. I've talked to Oscar Reed about this, his descendant as well. It's a very sensitive topic for them, because particularly in the people in that community, because there isn't much recognition of the remnants of this school itself. And again, I think this is a no-brainer. We should just go ahead and approve it. Main Street Program did a historic walk, like an audio historic walk, a couple years ago. know if you guys have talked about this, take y'all's words of support. Again, I think
And if you don't mind, since you brought that up, if you look, there's a QR code on the bottom of that sign, so that's, my goal is to have the alumni speak, have recordings of them, you're there, you scan the QR code, and you hear their voices. It won't be reading what's on this sign, but it'll be,
Parks and Rec, you know, this is kind of under their purview, I guess you might say, I don't want to overstep, but, we can always revisit it, you know, depending on how it comes out of Parks and Rec.
I I'm perfectly fine with, I mean, you and I are Parks and Rec, Zip's here, can we speak to Zip, is that allowed, or is that something?
Sure, it's not
Zip,
public
do you know?
hearing.
Okay, cool.
I'm like Alex, though, I mean, it's not gonna change my mind.
Yeah.
So I don't do it to leave this one.
Just your recommendation, like, do you feel like it would be appropriate for us to just go ahead and move forward with this versus taking it tomorrow to Parks and Rec and then prolonging it to the next meeting, or, I mean, I'm good with it. I know,
Yeah.
I feel like majority's pretty much good with it, but, you know, we wanna make sure we do right by.
I think it'd be good right now to wait to approve it, and then just update the, people tomorrow at the recreation.
We just let them know what's going on. Cool.
Are you comfortable with that, Jim?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. I think there was just the issues with, created the possibility of going to Parks and Rec, but I don't think there's any, I wouldn't see any issues from Parks and Rec, and there's certainly any issue, there's no issues from us. So if everyone's comfortable with that, I think we can go ahead and
What do we do about potential funding though? I mean, do we
Well-
kind of incorporate that into the motion, or is that something we can just direct staff to work with?
I was thinking we could direct staff to work.
If we needed to find an additional $3,500, then, and we didn't have it in our budget, we could bring it back as a budget amendment.
I should ask you, do you see any major issue in that?
No, I don't see any issue with that at all.
35 or 25? Half of 5. Is that what we're talking
Half.
about? Half.
All of it, ever how much you would
Yeah.
like to designate, it'd be a budget amendment.
Okay.
Yeah, if we don't have a budget.
Have you guys raised any funds thus far?
yes. I don't have a total number at the moment, but yes, I'm.
Okay. All right.
Well,
We can talk the money side later, but I think it would be, and I can appreciate.
So Jim, you're looking for a motion?
I would look for one.
Can I make a or I will make a motion to approve the project as presented with the caveats that you're gonna make the adjustments on some of the signages.
All right, motion made by Alex,
Second.
seconded by Charlie. All those in favor? Aye.
And
Any
then,
opposed? Motion unanimously passes.
and then I'd like to ask council if we could direct staff to contribute 50%, the whole thing, I don't know. I mean, it depends on what the funding target is, or what you've raised so far.
So maybe you find out your numbers and then whatever the difference is.
I think that's fine. And that, is that clear as staff? Or we-
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Great
Thank you,
project.
Zip.
It's awesome.
All right, well, that's everything that we have on the agenda here tonight. Miles, is there any?
I don't have any updates, so.
All right, if that's the case, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Alex, seconded by Catherine. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.